Hi, my name is Marissa Newlin, and I'm currently a graduate student at the Grand Canyon University. The purpose of this video is to talk about differentiation and engagement and the connection that it has with brain-based learning, and to provide different strategies for educators to use and implement into their classrooms. Differentiation is a word that is often talked about in education. If you're unfamiliar with what differentiation is, it's a more of a framework that implements different strategies to adjust curriculum and instruction to promote learning for all students. This goes hand in hand with brain based learning more than you might think. As educators, it is our job to help students process what they know, and we can use what we know about brain based learning and how to use brain based learning to incorporate this process to meet more students within differentiation in our classroom. It can look various ways. One way and strategy that you might do is to group your students based on their abilities. This can be more than just high, medium, low. It needs to be a flexible group. So it might be they understand multiplication, they kind of understand multiplication, they know a little bit about multiplication, and they know nothing. And these groups need to be fluid and flexible and constantly being assessed to make sure that the groups they're in the best fit group for the content that is being taught. After grouping students, you can make centers for these students and teach the lessons that really dive deep into what each student needs to know, because if they already know multiplication, you can go a step further and meet them where they are versus them having to sit in your classroom and listen to 2 times 2 is 4, and this is how we know that because we made this array, where they already know 2 times 2 is 4, and you can jump into the 10s and the 20s and groups like that. Another strategy that we can use is to use manipulatives and move your bodies during these groups, and you can alter assignments based on learning levels. If grouping your students and making centers seems like, whoa, that is way too much, I'm just getting used to this, you can simply just alter assignments based on what you know about your children and say, okay, they don't need to be doing this hard multiplication right now. They need to work with me one on one, but yet my super high kid needs to do an advanced lesson and video, or not video, and try to find a different strategy for those students so that you're still enhancing their education. Um, some of my favorite ways to do this in other contents other than just math is spelling. I will give my students a choice of how they want to take their spelling test. I noticed that during a game, one of my students was really good at spelling the words verbally, but when it came to writing them, he had a disconnect and he can't write them and spell them the correct way. So I just give him that test verbally. In the past, for various students, I have let them do multiple choice. They can write the word in a sentence. They can choose how they best want to represent their knowledge to me. So when possible, you need to give your students choice so that they're really showing what they know. Um, with differentiation, it becomes more of a game of managing your students and engaging your students, and you need to engage them in lessons and beyond the lesson. Engagement is a key element in learning, and there are different types of engagement. There's emotional, behavioral, cognitive. Engaging students in brain based learning will help students process their learning better and store it in their memory. Providing students with hands on engagement opportunities can really help students be more intent with their learning. Um, One thing that you really need to do with your students, no matter the age, this could be K-12, you need to spark their creativity and their curiosity. An example of sparking their creativity in my classroom is a simple picture book that I might be reading. I will give them a blank piece of paper and have them fold it into sections. And throughout each 2 pages that we're reading, I'm not showing them that picture. I'm letting them draw what they're hearing would be going on. And then afterwards, we do a picture book walk and we talk about, oh, this is different. Like, the author wanted this portrayed and not what we portrayed from the lesson. And so it's just a really good way to get their brains working. And then those are the lessons that my students are really memorizing. And they talk to me about it. Like I did this at the beginning of the school year, and they still are talking to me in March about what they learned. Um, a different strategy is to spark their curiosity, and you can engage students in a lesson better if they are actually curious about what you're teaching them and what they're about to learn. So, one way that I have done this in the past, and that you could try, is if you're talking about maybe wildlife in social studies or even in reading, we read about wildlife all the time. I survey my students and I see who knows more about wildlife than anybody else. And I say, "Do you want to share your knowledge?" And they always say they want to. I had a group of boys who knew so much about deer. I knew nothing really, or felt like I knew nothing when they told me about it. And what they taught the whole class, and then when we went to that lesson and we were trying to learn, the students would be like, "Oh yeah, he said that. He told us all about that deer already." And you can just see the light bulb really going off, and you can tell that they're truly engaged. And I try to do that in multiple lessons. So like some students are better about sports, or they know more about the ocean, and I let them share the information because they need to get it out, and students really remember that. So, no matter how much they knew, we were all paying attention during our story to be like, yes, we did just hear about that. And engaging your students and differentiating your teaching is really what you should be doing as an educator.